already ate all of them.
I had 2 bunches and stole one for somebody else.
No, there was,
I don't remember who it was, but.
they ate over 300 hush puppies last year.
Well, I should all.
Well, we're coming to church this morning, and she said, I just love Bill. And then she said, like last week, she said, it was storming, and she said there was all that water, and she said, he had to know people wouldn't be, a lot of people wouldn't be at church. She said, he still got up and made them pancakes. That's just how he is. I was like, yeah, that's how I'm good.
Thank God for Bill.
Question number 3. What was the purpose of the Transfiguration? We talked about what it was and the significance of the 6 days. What was the purpose of it? Why did it need to be done? Yes, Bonnie.
Do you have an extra one? I haven't been here for 2 weeks.
I was so excited. I thought I just saw her here. I thought she was going to answer a question.
I'm here.
Hey, you got here first, you tell me?
I just thought maybe she was going to get one right.
You guys need one?
I'm afraid to answer because I always answer wrong.
Chris, you guys need one?
Do you not have ours? Where's that? You. It's your fault.
It'll be faster if I just give you
Where is he?
Thank you. Here.
Okay, what's the purpose of the Transfiguration? Why did Jesus feel he needed to do it?
Why don't you tell us?
Yeah, because we know that you know.
Yeah, I wish I do as much stuff as you think I do. Okay. A picture's worth 1,000 words. You've heard that? Well, he had said he was God. They had heard a voice from heaven. They had seen miracles. But they had only seen the human side of Jesus. And Jesus needed for them to know that he was God. If I pray for somebody and God answers a prayer and he gets around that it happened, it gives me some credentials, but I'm still just a human being being used by God. Jesus needed for them to know that he wasn't just a human being being used by God. Jesus needed for them to know that he was God. And so he showed them the spiritual side of him. He let his true spiritual nature shine forth. Okay. What is more reliable, what I say or what you see me do?
What does he do?
Both.
I got that.
What? Both.
Yeah.
Does he do what he say?
I need to do what I say. Need to do what I say. But, it doesn't do me a bit of good to teach you a lesson on being generous and then be stingy. It just makes me a hypocrite.
Oh.
Yeah.
How many people do you know, are you acquainted with, that you absolutely, positively, without any doubt whatsoever, can believe every single word they say?
Only you.
Only, no. I'm not talking about making a mistake, okay? Everybody will make a mistake or say something backwards or,
He's in trouble again.
yeah, I'll have to separate you two. But, we're human beings and we'll say things we don't mean or we'll say things backwards or get the wrong word in there one way or another. And it's an honest mistake. But how many people do you know that if they say they'll do it, it's going to be done? You don't have to, it's going to happen.
A very slim amount of people.
Huh?
A very slim amount of people. Not very many.
Could you feel 10 fingers?
Probably not.
Probably not.
Now, I don't want to hear any names, don't give me any names, okay?
I already know myself.
But our word is supposed to be reliable, and when we say something and then don't show up, or when we say something and it turns out not to be true, well, then our credibility just swirls right down.
Most of
the
people in the
tube.
Sunday school have
Okay.
sidetracked.
And who are we really demeaning when we do that? If I say I'm a Christian and I tell you something and then I don't follow through with action on it, who am I really degrading? God. I'm degrading Jesus. But Jesus came along here and he needed to let them see that he was God. Not just a man doing good things, not just another Elijah or another Elisha. He needed for them to see that he was God, and so he showed them his nature. Why did he climb a mountain? God had a purpose, Jesus had a purpose in taking him up on a mountain. Why did he climb a mountain?
To get away from
Did you
everyone.
eat too much yesterday? What did it?
To get away from everyone.
Not this time.
To get closer to God.
It meant something very special to these three men that they climbed the mountain.
Say again.
To get closer to God.
Almost, real close, at the real close. Where did all the major things happen in the Old Testament? Where did he call Moses?
No, I don't know.
From the burning bush on top of the mountain, okay? Where did Elijah meet the 400 prophets of Baal and bring down fire? On top of the mountain, okay? Give me another for instance. Where did Moses get the Ten Commandments?
On top of the mountain.
On top of the mountain.
Good guess.
Okay. And after he took the Ten Commandments and destroyed the golden calf, where did he get the second set of the Ten Commandments? Right back up on top of the mountain. Now, these three men knew that. They knew that when you go up on the mountain, we're going to get closer to God, like Abby said, and that you were going to, that something important was going to happen. And so for this to have happened on the side of the mountain meant so much more to them than if it would have happened in a fishing boat somewhere. Because they knew that the true nature of God was to bring you up and then meet with you on a higher level. All right. What's that tell you about God?
It's very
Persistent.
yes, persistent. That's the word for it. I can't think of the word.
Persistent?
Persistent.
Okay.
He likes mountains.
Okay, he's consistent. God is consistent.
Okay.
He's the same yesterday and today.
Reliable.
Yeah, that's reliable, okay. But why didn't he just preach a sermon from a pulpit?
Because they had to work. They had to work to climb the mountain to begin with. They had to put forth some effort.
Okay, that would make their experience personal, okay?
And I think it validates the scripture. If you draw close to God, He'll draw close to you.
Yep, okay. Do you see in here that God is willing to come down to our level and do what we need more than expect us to come up to his level and give him what he needs? God will come down to wherever we are and do whatever is necessary. He treated Jennifer totally different when he brought her into the family than he treated me. Because she had different needs and I had different needs. She understood in a different way, and I understood, I was a Pentecostal and she was, I don't know what she was.
Baptist.
Baptist. Okay, so there was different doctrine there, different teaching, and so he appealed to Jennifer in a way that she would understand, that would bring her into his presence and into full knowledge of him. Me, he did it a totally different way. Some people are pliable and they're looking for the truth and they just fall right into it. Other people are stubborn and they resist. And he treats every
That was
individual.
perfect timing. Some people are stubborn, he said.
Look what the cat drew again, the dog didn't want.
Boy, that was right on time. How does Peter respond?
Sit down. Shut up. I mean,
How does Peter respond? Like Peter. You know?
Where you going?
Under your mother,
Did we run you off?
under your mother.
Maybe
She's
upstairs.
outside.
Oh, she's outside.
There was an old woman over at Mitchell that I visited in the nursing home years ago, and she's in there the same time that Lawrence Grissom was in there, and she was Ruby's sister, but I can't remember her name.
Okay, how does Peter respond?
I can see your, I can't remember.
He wants to put up a shelter.
He wanted to do something human for them.
Yeah, he responds on the human level. What in the world do three spirits need a shelter for? Huh? Wait. They're not going to stay here. He responds on the human level. He says, let's put up 3 tabernacles, let's put up 3 booths. Is that significant about this particular time in Jesus' life? Do you know about the Feast of the Tabernacles? Or the Feast of the Booths?
no, I just tell us, that way we'll know.
When they're coming up on the Passover, they enter into the 6 days of preparation. Okay? And for those 6 days, they don't sleep in their bedrooms and they don't sleep in their beds. They go up and they put a tent on the roof of their houses. And for 6 days, they live in those tents. Or they put it in their courtyard. Why did they do that? Why did Moses command that they do that for those 6 days?
Something about being ready.
Well, it was about. So they wouldn't forget about the journey through the wilderness. So they wouldn't forget about how God provided for them and took care of them. I went to a Thanksgiving dinner at a church one time, and they didn't tell anybody what was going to happen. So we all sat down at the table, and you could smell the food cooking and whatever, and they came around and they put 7 grains of corn on each person's plate. Why?
Is 7 is a godly number?
No. Because when the first winter that the Pilgrims lived on the new land in America, they got there late in the summer and their crops failed. And toward the end of the winter, they were running out of food, and so the ration for each person was 7 grains of corn a day so that they could get through to the spring.
That's nasty.
Why did they do that? So we could remember and appreciate the sacrifice that those people made to start a new colony in this country. Because their first, what was it, 3/4 of them died in the first winter. And the ones that lived survived on 7 kernels of corn a day, plus all the water they could drink. But that is how hard they had it. Now, we sit down and we eat the turkey and we eat the plum pudding and we eat all this stuff and gorge ourselves and sleep all afternoon, and we don't even think about the sacrifice that was really made when the first colonists came here and made the first settlement at Jamestown. But it reminded us. Then the pastor got up and he talked about that. And do you think it changed the attitude toward the food after that? Do you think people were more appreciative? I know I was. You know, usually we just gorge and don't even think about it, but it really brought it to light that the first people, the first year, the first winter that they were here in the Americas, they only had 7 grains of corn a day to survive on until spring came and they could get nourishment in other places. Peter responds on a human level. He said, let's build him some booths. Have you ever been driving around and see those Mary, little Mary shelters and Catholic shelters?
Got a half bathtub.
Oh.
Looks like a half bathtub there in the ground. What it looks like. Say,
Now, there's, it brings up a question, what's an idol? What becomes an idol?
anything that you worship or
Anything that you worship other than God. Okay. Anything that you worship other than God.
money or anything.
Now, there's nothing wrong with honoring Mary. Mary was a good woman. Mary was a righteous woman, and God favored her and picked her because she was exceptional. There's nothing wrong with acknowledging that. But should we worship her? No, she's not God. We have to worship Jesus.
Why do they, the Catholic, me and Austin went to the Catholic Church last week.
Because that's what they're taught.
Was trying to do some work there, and he asked me that, because everything is about Mary in there.
That's what they're taught. And
What's the purpose of it, though? I mean,
oh, it's
other than
well,
Jesus.
that's on the human nature too. You know, if you can be on if I can be on a good relationship with Mary, then she'll put pressure on Jesus to answer my prayers. Isn't that a human thing? Isn't that politics? Isn't it?
I guess I never did think of that.
And it all started way back in the Dark Ages when the popes became pretty corrupt. And in order to control the people, they would not allow them to have a direct relationship with Jesus Christ. You had to go to the Pope to get your prayers answered. You had to go to the Pope to make your requests known. Not the Pope, but the priest. And the priest was the one that could excommunicate you or could bless you. Depending on how much money you put in the pot. Now, it's not near that way today. That was an embarrassing time in the history of the Catholics, but that's the way it was. And so they discouraged a direct relationship with Jesus Christ to force you to have a direct relationship with the priest. And if you didn't want to do what the priest said, then the priest could excommunicate you and you'd go to hell. That'd be it.
Basically, he's in charge of your salvation, not necessarily Jesus. Because they still do it.
Well, that's what the last rites are all about. All those traditions are still there, but it's not near as corrupt as it was back in the 1200s and the 1300s. All right. Peter's immediate response was, let's do something material. Let's build a booth. Let's build a tabernacle. Let's build a church. Can the church building be an idol?
Yeah.
Can it?
Yep.
You know that St. Peter's in London, I think it is, has seating for about 900 people. They have between 20 and 40 people attend church every Sunday morning. Just a big empty building. Beautiful. great artistry. Stained glass windows are magnificent. Millions of people visit it during the week every year, but nobody worships there anymore. So that building has become an idol. It doesn't have anything to do with God anymore. Very, very few people attempt it. If you ever go to Philadelphia, there's a Quaker church in Philadelphia, and the second pew on the right is roped off. Nobody's allowed to sit there, because that's where William Penn and his family sat. So that pew is worshipped. That pew is special. And, you know, that's on a human level, that's on a material level. That's not a spiritual thing. It's good to have a building. I'm glad we have a building, and we should take care of it, and we should appreciate it. But we're not here because of the building or the grounds, or because Grandma and Grandpa came here. We're here because of Jesus. And if we're ever here for anything other than Jesus, we're here for the wrong reasons. That's what Jesus was, Jesus was trying to show them here. It's about me. It's about the spiritual side of this thing. It's not about the material side. And what's Peter do? He says, let's build a building. The material thing. He responded on the human level. We ever do that?
Oh, yeah.
No, we wouldn't.
Jesus did, you said.
How does fear factor in here? It said he said that because he was afraid. He did not know what to say. They were so frightened. If you don't know what to say, should you say something?
Don't say nothing at all.
Huh?
That's how.
No?
Yeah.
If you don't know what you say, keep your mouth shut. You're not going to help the situation. You ever heard the little story about the little girl that wanted to go to the neighbor? There was an old man who lived next door. It's a true story. True story. The neighbor's wife had died, and they'd been married for 65 years. And they were just a couple of saints. And the two little kids that lived next door were over there all the time because they were like Grandma and Grandpa to them. And she always had cookies, and she always had this. And the kids would just come in and do anything they wanted to do. Well, gentleman's wife died, and they had the service and everything. And after the service, everybody went home, and they watched the old fella walk into the house and shut the door. And the little girl, she's about 5, 6 years old, she said, I want to go over and see him. And her dad said, no, he's grieving right now, sweetheart. He probably wants to be alone. She said, but I want to go over and see him. I want to go over and see him. And so finally her dad said, go ahead, you can go over and see him. So she went over, knocked on the door, and went in. She's gone about 2 hours. And she comes back, and he said, well, sweetheart, what did you say to him? And she said, I didn't say anything. I just crawled up on his lap and we cried. You know, sometimes silence is the answer. Sometimes we ought to be listening and not talking. If we don't know what to say, maybe it's because the Holy Spirit wants us just to be quiet for a while and listen to someone, or sit with someone and grieve with someone, or identify with someone. Peter, he felt like he had to say something. And so he blurted this out, and he showed his humanity, but he also showed his ignorance of what he had just seen. Now later on in 1 Peter and 2 Peter, he refers back to this, and he kind of acknowledges that at that point in time, he didn't understand what was going on, but he grew into it. He understood it later on, after he was persecuted, and after he was in jail, and after he was beaten. He began to realize who Jesus really was and how much he had suffered and how big the sacrifice was. But at this point in time, he just blurts out something because he felt like he had to fix it or say something, and we got to go upstairs.
Yeah, that's-
Bill left us papers on our table, he knew we were gonna.
I'm a blur. Me too.
How do you turn this thing off, Annie?
Sometimes we just have to embrace.
Maybe just hit.